Tekken 5 was a game that was released in 2004 as an arcade. After the failure of Tekken 4 due to the sales and the criticism that Harad was getting, he was feeling underwhelmed by the review and the criticism and kind of took a year off doing Tekken. But eventually, when his team and other people pleased him to come back into Tekken, he eventually came back into the team and started to play with Tekken 5. And in terms of playing, I mean, he decided to bring the team around, and basically they were kind of making Tekken 5 a new breath of fresh air. So after the failure of Tekken 4, they decided to go fully ham on the design for Tekken by adding different softwares and a new graphic engine into the mix. So it was to work on the complexity and the animation, and also to add other elements in the environment, like fire for example. It was like a brand new game that people were seeing for the first time, and I actually think it's quite cool. For many top players and the fans, I think Tekken 5 is a return to form as it made changes along the way, and also there was more sales that were being done, way better than Tekken 4. Although the sales for Tekken 4 isn't that bad, but I guess I'd never know what it's like to earn millions these days. You have to at least appreciate what they were doing with Tekken 4 to make it more of a realistic, dark vibe to the table. And I say dark because the stories were dark. This was like the aftermath of what happened in Tekken 3, with now Ogre being finally defeated thanks to Jin, but then with Jin taking a dark turn for the worse when he got betrayed, and then also Kazuya returning from the dead. And then at the same time, it was just like things weren't going the way things were. Everyone had a reason to fight, but at least now people really loved Tekken. It was now looking forward to finding another game that people were actually going to play after a disappointing one. I'm gonna get the negative stuff out the way, okay? Devil Within is garbage. I do not like the look of it. It just looks like a really terrible way of trying to make Tekken be like an RPG for some reason. And if you're gonna add Jun to the story, why the hell are you gonna give me a frauded character such as Asuka Kazama? Honestly, seriously, that was such a fraud way to kind of bring people in. I was hoping that Jin would come back, but no, I had to wait years and years for that to happen now. And also, the story mode for Tekken 5, the voiceover is annoying, horrible. I don't know why he's trying so hard to make it seem like it's the most exciting thing ever. Why can't you talk casually? The Tekken 4 story mode was way better, way fitting, way more tolerable. This one, I'm just there like, bro, just shut up. Like, honestly, every time I hear the voice, that's all I'm thinking right now.
And he knew he was the one.
Shut the fuck up!
So the gameplay features some standard story battles, arcade battles, time attack versus and team, but also it adds a lot to it with the arcade history, finally adding Tekken's 1, 2 and 3 as it's the 10th anniversary for Tekken at the time. It was really cool to give fans the throwback to how Tekken started and how it ended. Although, why can't you do the same for Tekken 4? I understand. It's a PS2 game, honestly. But still, I think it was really cool to add those features to it. At least then now I could then go back and then play Tekken if I don't have Tekken 3 on the PS. So in the story, you now got a new boss called Jinpachi Mishima, who is now one of the hardest bosses to play against, if I'm being honest with you. Now obviously you had Heihachi as a Tekken 1 of 4 boss as well, but also in Tekken 3 they added Ogre, but this time they added another Mishima bloodline to the table. But this one was more of a demon, kind of a scary outlook on it. Like, his mouth is literally part of his body. Like, oh my god.
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I want all of you to look at it!
They were finally adding some battle scenes to the table, such as your rival talks, and then sometimes when players will have to play against the final boss, they add their own cutscenes as well, which I think is kind of cool, because then at least you know how to interact with each other as characters one by one. Alongside the story battles, the characters were given more of a comedic ending. They didn't have to be all serious all the time. It's basically just shows you how serious they take characters in the video game. But with that being said, it kind of gives you an attention where they say Heihachi is dead after the battle with the Jax Force, but then really he actually was just unconscious for about a year and then broke out of a really big hole that he landed in, and eventually he wasted a year not being in the tournament and had to wait until King of Iron Fist Tournament 6 to finally be in the tournament. But really, he's still playable in the game, so yeah, I think it's okay. The CGI endings on this one is actually kind of a really nice way to kind of end the characters, and also the way they kind of detailed on it as well is pretty nice. Honestly, my favorite one has to be Lee Chaowun's ending. It's quite hilarious.
Excellent.
After a slow gameplay in Tekken 4, Tekken 5 decided to up the speed for each of the characters' animation. You can add the sidewalks to it, the side steps, the move backs and the move forwards. Alongside that, it kind of became a thing when it came up to from Tekken 5 all the way up to the Tekken we're playing right now. And I love it, man. I think it's great because it definitely had some problems with the game speed, though I still love Tekken 4, keep in mind. Despite some changes, there's still the same things like the high damage for each combos you produce, but I also think that they gave you a bit of freedom to make more combos in the game. Like with Jin, basically he was hard to get into when it came a different fighting style, but now that he's in Tekken 5, I think it's more memorable now. I think it's more easier now to kind of now produce more combos for Jin, and he's not trying to do the new moves that we tried to not do, because there's just so much that people were really missing with Jin. I think he's just underrated. Now, there is something that people tend to not see. There were different versions of Tekken at the time. There was Tekken 5.1 that was released in the arcade, and then there was Tekken Dark Resurrection, which was released in PSP, which had different health bars in different colors. Tekken had the orange or yellow health bars that they had, and honestly it didn't really faze me all that much. I still think the game was really good. I just think that basically adding different versions to it kind of reminded me a bit of like Street Fighter 2 when they added different versions to the game. When Street Fighter 2 was slow, they decided to up the ante a bit with hyper fighting, and then they did the turbo and then new challenges, X, Y, and Z. It kind of gave me that vibe, but I still really enjoyed all these versions that I played as a kid. And the music is composed so well. Like honestly, it gives you so much hype and so much vibe to the table. The character select music definitely gave me the chills for this one. It's just so sick. Like it definitely gave me more of an up ante from a dark turn to a really lively, I wouldn't say happy, but it's just more lively, you know? It's so sick. With the PS3 finally being released, Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection Online became a thing, with now adding more players that are able to play each other online with their favorite characters with 720p, 1080p. It was just insane. You know how much people were really playing this, and people would happily go back to it more times than they did before. Like even though the game was released so long ago, like you can't deny how sick this game is. So with that being said, I leave you with one of the greatest fighting game intros of all time. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.